Hello my friends, my name is Irvin, also known as Koboman. In today's video we have a refresh course for help desk, desktop support, or tech support in general. What I do is every couple of months I would take the videos that I've made over that time and combine them into a single video that you can watch without having to go through and find these individual topics on your own. So let's see what we have. First thing, we have a real-world scenario where the issue is no administrator access at local level. I will show you how to do that. I will also talk about Bitlocker encryption and its use in a business environment. Third part of that is installing software through PowerShell. So it's an introduction to PowerShell and how to use it to install and uninstall different programs. It's really good to use for somebody who might be interested in that. Last part of the video talks about file association along with some Java troubleshooting. Guys, let me know if you like this type of stuff. If you have any comments, please leave them below and I'll answer them as well. And if you got a moment, please click the like button. This really makes a huge difference for my channel. I really appreciate that and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you. And in today's video, we're going to look at a real-world scenario in which you may come across in tech support. In this situation, we cannot access a remote computer so we can make changes to it or fix something on it. So what happens is we, for example, try to backdoor into it to make some changes. We would simply, for example, type in // name of the computer that we're trying to access. And then we would try to hit enter and the error would be, well, you don't have administrator privileges, so you can't do anything with that. Or we're trying to remote desktop into it. And it would be the same thing. We would type in the name of the computer, hit enter, and it would say, nope, you don't have administrator privileges, you can't access. So what seems to be the problem? Well, here's the thing. As tech support, you probably belong to a group policy on the domain that has administrator privileges that's automatically applied to all the computers that belong to that domain. So in this case, what happened is the chances are that that group policy hasn't applied to that computer locally. So let's say the name of your group on the domain, let's just open sticky notes real quick so we can have a reference. Let's say the name of your group is IT support. You and everybody else that belongs to that group, you and everybody that belongs to this IT support group on that domain has admin access. So at this point, in order to quickly resolve this issue, instead of going through, reimaging the computer, this and that, or trying to force any of these things, we can just simply add IT support group that you belong to with administrator privileges. We can add it to this computer at local level. And if you appreciate this type of content, instead of me playing an advertisement here, please take a second here and just click the like button or subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and this way I don't have to bug you with ads. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we need to have a local administrator password or a local administrator login so we can make these changes locally. Obviously, you need local admin privileges. So what we're going to do is going to access our system with using local administrator. Now, this is one of those things that your company will provide for you. If you have a good company that you work for, chances are that every computer that they have will have a backup login, which will be a local admin and will have a specific password for it. So you're going to have to find this out. You're going to have to look up the name of the computer that you're trying to troubleshoot. For example, you can see here that the name of this computer is called tech support. So you would access the database that has the passwords for the tech support, for the local admins on tech support, and then you're going to find out what that password is and what the login name for that is, and then you would log into that computer. In my case, I am logged in as administrator using this login. So in my case, it's YT login and it has administrator privileges, and it's for this computer that's called tech support, and I am good to go. Now I can make changes to the group policy that has applied to this computer. All right, so let's get to it. Now, in order to do this, we're going to have to open up our local group policy. Now, this is the wrong thing to look at. A lot of people look this up and they're like, oh, well, how do I do this? Where is this at? This is the wrong thing. This is local group policy editor for the components of the window or anything that runs on this computer. So what this basically does, you would go in and, for example, allow or disallow a component of the Windows or software to run. For example, it would say allow, or deny whatever is trying to do. Okay, and this is not it. What we want is actually called local users and groups. So in order to get that, we can type in lusrmgr.msc in our run command, and we hit OK, and it's going to open up our local users and groups. Here's where we're going to apply our changes so that we can go about our business and get to fixing this computer. Now, there are roundabout ways to get this, and you can get to this through the computer management as well. If you go to Control Panel, click Administrative Tools, and then select Computer Management, you can see that local users and groups are here as well, which is the same thing as the window that we opened previously, like so. So it's the exact same thing. You can see users and groups here. It's the exact same thing as what we have on this other side. So that's one way to go about it. Now, you can apply this IT support group by selecting groups here in this left hand side. So make sure you select groups, not users. Users are just local accounts. Groups is what we want. So we're applying a group policy to this computer. And let me just expand this here so it's easier to see, a little bit easier to understand, because I really want to highlight the part that we're going to make changes to. All right. So what we're going to do is add administrators group policy to it. So obviously we're going to select administrators, and you can see here, if you read it, it says administrators have complete and unrestricted access to computer/domain. Get it? So IT support group belongs to a domain. Now we're going to add IT support to the administrators of this computer that is locally, and we're going to now do that. And once we do that, all the administrators, all the people that belong to this IT support group will have administrator privileges on this PC at that time. So the way you do that is simply select add, and we're going to type in IT support, and then we're going to click OK. And in this case, it's not doing anything because it's just a fictional group policy. So what happened is we would add it, and then suddenly you would see IT support, a domain group policy applied to this, and you simply click OK and possibly reboot the computer, but it should take effect immediately. At this point, the whole point of doing this is so that not only will you have administrative privileges on this computer, now you can make any changes to it you want remotely or this and that, but everybody else that belongs to that group, so all the people that work with you, now they don't have to go through this thing of getting local administrator login, the password, this and that. Now you can make all these changes, and then everybody can just log in, and that's the quickest way of doing this. Now, of course, if the group policy hasn't been applied to this computer automatically for some reason, that there may be some other issue that you may want to look at it. However, this is a quick fix, and you can just go about your business, and then anything else. I mean, there might be multiple groups that need to be applied to this. It just depending on the system of the business setup that you have where you work at. It's just going to kind of vary from business to business. In today's video, we're going to talk about Bitlocker and its use in tech support, or in a business environment, if you will. Bitlocker is used for encrypting of your drive. So for example, let's say you have a computer at work, chances are it will be encrypted with some kind of software, typically would be the C drive, for example, here. So there are many types of encryption software, and for example, one of them is Sophos, but a lot of businesses are going towards a Bitlocker because Bitlocker is part of Windows operating system, and it's free and it's convenient and it works well. Bitlocker uses AES 256 encryption, and that's another reason to use it, because it's just about impossible to decrypt it and basically access any data on it unless you have a key for it or direct access, hardware access to it. So in addition, what I'm going to do is actually talk about how it's implemented in a business environment and which kind of operating systems can use BitLocker. So for BitLocker to work, you have to have Windows 10 Pro, Enterprise, or educational version of Windows operating system, meaning that if you have Windows Home operating system, you will not have the option to turn on BitLocker. You need to have at least Windows 10 Professional. So that won't work if you have Windows Home. Okay, I digress. So let's move on. So let's talk about the importance of having drive encryption. So what happens is if somebody steals this computer, they can literally take this C drive here, they can take it out of the computer and they can plug it into their computer and they're going to slave it to their computer. It's going to kind of look like this. It may show up as local disk D, for example, and they're going to try to access it. However, if it's encrypted, they won't be able to access it at all. It would just say, well, you need the key to unlock this drive. So there's a great security feature that comes with any type of drive encryption, but this is also made easy with a BitLocker. So if they have access to your computer, let's say they steal it, and chances are that you have a password, right? Most of us have a password before they can log into the computer, so they can't get past the password. So they take the drive out and they try to slave it inside of their computer. And if you don't have encryption, they can literally just go inside of C. They can go to your documents and look up anything that's inside and have full access to it. You can see there are some important stuff in here, and then we don't want them to have any access to that, especially if you have passwords that are saved, for example, in a notepad. Let's say you have a notepad that you just keep around for a password. For example, let's say you have your Gmail password, and then you have your login, chances are, Gmail login, and then you may have it saved in a notepad, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you have drive encryption. So keep that in mind. If you are saving any passwords to your computer in a format as such, which is completely normal, if you don't have drive encryption, then you're just kind of asking for data loss, or somebody, God forbid, this is just the worst type of scenarios, that somebody steals your hard drive, or they can even access it over in other ways, right? So that being said, we definitely want to have our drive encrypted. In our case, why not do it? Because it's free. It's completely free with Windows operating system. So let's look at the implementation of this in a business environment. But before I proceed, I would just like to ask you to take a few seconds to click like on this video or subscribe. In this case, I don't have to play an advertisement for you. Instead of waiting 30 seconds, you can just spend 5 seconds here and click like or subscribe. I really appreciate it, guys. I really do. Thank you so much. So let me show you how BitLocker is enabled. If you just have a personal computer, you can simply right-click any of the drives, and then you can select Turn on BitLocker. So what happens is when you click Turn on BitLocker, the computer itself will test the drive to see if it's compatible with BitLocker, and then it will tell you whether you can turn it on. Chances are that it will be, because most drives are compatible with BitLocker encryption. So here we go. It gives you an option to save a recovery key. And again, I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. A recovery key can be used to access your files and folders if you're having problems unlocking your PC. It's a good idea to have more than one and keep each in a safe place other than your PC. So this is incredibly important to save somewhere else that's not your PC. I personally, what I do is I either save it somewhere somewhere externally, and there are many options of doing this. For me personally, I have multiple copies of the BitLocker, and you can, so here's an option. You can save it on an external USB if you really wanted to. You can save it on, you can send it to your email. You can just print it out if you really wanted to. Those are certainly options that you have here. And of course, you have an option here that says save to your Microsoft account. I don't really do that because I may lose the password to my Microsoft account. You can save it to a file. That's definitely an option. You can print the recovery key as well. We will have a look here in a moment on how you would use the recovery key as well on an encrypted drive. However, let's touch on how this is used or implemented in a business environment. So the drive would be encrypted after the computer has been imaged or re-imaged. So after the system used in your business, it has finished installing the operating system anew, it would start to encrypt the drive with BitLocker. And at that point, whatever the system has initiated, I mean, this could be done possibly with a batch script or some kind of a tool that initiates BitLocker and at the same time saves the file to a remote location, so that way you have access or a copy of that recovery key in case of a computer crash. So let's say user reports an issue where he says, or he or she says, my computer crashed, and you look at it and you're like, oh wow, this is a hardware problem. Let's say a motherboard died or something like that. And the problem is that you can't just take that drive and plug it into another computer. It won't work because BitLocker knows that that drive belongs to another PC. So the only thing you can do here is slave the drive. And let me just cancel this. Or no, let me just move this out of the way. You can slave it to your drive, and it would kind of show up like this, like local disk D, and then you would have an option. You would have like a lock key, and I'll show you this, and it would ask you for recovery key. So that's the thing. It would have a copy of this key somewhere else remote, and this process would encrypt it, save it somewhere else. So in case of a crash, of a hardware failure, you would have this system or a tool. It really depends on the business setup environment. It could be just a file spreadsheet somewhere. We don't know. But I digress. It would have that key, and then you would look it up probably by using the host name or maybe the serial number of that computer. You would look up what the key is for that, so that way you can recover user data. So let's go ahead and do it manually here to see what happens. I'm going to save it to a file, and I'm going to click here, save, and you will see a specific error. And for this here, I'm just going to leave the BitLocker recovery key as it is, so that way I don't need to change it or anything. It's self-explanatory. I already know what it is, but I want to show you what happens if I was just to click save here. And you can see right away that the BitLocker wizard here says you can't save to this PC. Please choose another location. So let's go ahead and try the desktop. We're going to click save. Again, says this location can't be used. Your recovery can't be saved to an encrypted drive. Choose a different location. You see how everything kind of comes back to this, to have a remote somewhere else recovery key located, so that way you can recover the data, right, in case of a crash or anything like that. I mean, as far as I know, you may forget a password for your drive, and then you can recover it with a recovery key, as long as you remember to keep a key somewhere safe that you know to look for it. Okay, so let's go ahead and save it to another drive. I'm going to try to see if I can save it to this other drive that is not encrypted. So I'm just going to leave it at D here. Matter of fact, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it BitLocker keys, and I'm going to go inside of that, and then I'm going to save it as so. So let's go back in here and make sure that we do have that BitLocker key. Where's our thing? BitLocker keys, and here's our file. If we look inside of it, here are our keys. Here's the recovery key. Here's the identifier for it, and you can see that that's reflected in the file name as well. And here is our recovery key in case of a crash. So you can see that the recovery key in this case is just a combination of different numbers with dashes, and this is 256-bit encryption for your drive. Okay, now that we have the key saved, I can go ahead and click next. It gives you an option on how to encrypt it. You can see the encrypt disk usage, encrypt used disk space only, and it's faster, and that's set up for brand new computer. So if it's a brand new install, this is typically what happens, and anything else that's added to it, you save new files, programs, this and that, it's going to encrypt it automatically as it states here. But if you have a computer that's been used for a long time, you might want to encrypt the entire drive, which is slower, but this is what happens. So chances are, if you remember that once your computer is reimaged, just use the fast one, and that should be fine, because everything else you add to it later on will be encrypted as well. So it's going to click next, new encryption mode. Choose which encryption mode to use. As you can see here, there's two different types of mode. The newest version is installed or introduced in version 15.11 of Windows 10. And if you're unsure, you can just leave it at compatible mode, so that way it's backwards compatible for all other versions of Windows that you may be running. If you're not worried about it, you can just leave it in new encryption mode, because I believe the newest version of operating system, I believe it's 19 something, so we're well past that. Either way, it's fine. I'm just going to leave it in compatibility mode just in case. And then it's going to ask you, are you ready to encrypt this drive? Encryption may take a while depending on the size of your drive. It says you can keep working, which is fine, although your PC might run more slowly. So it's asking you if you want to do a Bitlocker system check. In this case, all it is doing is just making sure that the hard drive itself is in good running condition, meaning that there are no errors with the drive itself. And you can certainly do that just to be sure. So it's going to do that. And then again, don't forget, I will show you how it looks like when we are trying to recover data on an encrypted Bitlocker drive. So what you're looking at here is what happens if somebody tries to boot from the Bitlocker hard drive. This is the error they get. You can see it's referring to a recovery key ID, and if you remember, it's the exact same one that we have for our hard drive. So I literally put it in another computer, try to boot it from that drive as well, and then now it's saying, well, you need the key to even attempt to even get to the login screen of this PC. And here's our reference number. We can compare it exactly to our key, and it's this here, and then we have the identifier for it. So now it's asking for this specifically. All right, now let's see what happens when we log in to our computer and see it as a slaved drive. So here we are. Our encrypted drive is now slaved. Now we can see that it has a little lock key on it. So let's double check it and see what happens. Here we go again. It's asking for that Bitlocker recovery key. All right, let's give it a shot and see what happens with that. I'm going to open up our recovery file. Here is our key. I'm going to copy this entire key like so. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to paste that in there. I'm going to hit unlock. And there you have it, guys. Now you can see the little lock is unlocked, and now we can go inside of this, make any changes, and recover user data, which is typically located in users and under their login profile. And lastly, going back to our computer where we have encrypted it in originally, we're going to have a look of some options that are there available for managing a BitLocker. If we right click the C drive and select manage BitLocker, we can see that we can once more back up your recovery key if you need a copy of it, or you can also turn off BitLocker if you choose so. In today's video, we're learning some of the basics of PowerShell, specifically on how to install or execute application installation. So what I will teach you here is how to use some basic commands that would lead you towards creating your own scripts that would allow you to install software through the PowerShell. So basically, once you go to the internet and you download something, it's going to be inside of downloads folder, and whatever you decide to install, let's for example take this example here, Media Creation Tool 1809, you would simply double click it and you get the prompts, and you go to the prompts and then you install everything like that. Well, you can also execute this through the PowerShell. So there are a couple of ways of doing this which will help you get to the point where you create your own script to run PowerShell remote installs or even local installs, if you will, and that is to get to the same directory. So if we type in cd downloads, it's going to take us to that directory. The reason it got us to that directory because we're already partially there. But if we really wanted to navigate to this, it would be simple as this. We're going to type in users, name of the local profile that I'm using, which is YT login, and then I'm going to type in downloads. It's going to get us to the same place. So if we type in dir, we can see that that media creation tool is indeed there as well. So this is one of those things you might want to double check every time you create or before you start to create your scripts. By the way, this is going to be a little bit more advanced, so it's a little bit more advanced for people who are more familiar with computer software, but if you're new to computers, I will try to go as slow as possible. Comparatively speaking, here's the same directory in a GUI form. So this is inside of our Windows, and we can see that it's exact same stuff that we see in here. So let's go ahead and execute it from the PowerShell. And the way to do that is to type in start process, and then type in media creation tool.exe. See, now we get the same prompt to go through our prompts to, basically install our software. However, if you want to make this to be a silent operation, you would do the same thing and then just do a switch or a command, which is /s. This would execute it silently. If it is an MSI package, typically it won't work here because this is executable and it's designed to literally go through the prompts like that. But if you do have MSI package, it will allow you to do so like so. And for example of an MSI package, in case you don't know, is for example this one. This is an MSI installer for that, and that is .msi. Now here's another example of how to do it from a remote location. In our case, we might have something on a network level, which is for me located here. I went ahead and created a folder for this example on // and that is the PC name or the server name that you might be using. And then I'm going to type in folder name repo1. So if we look inside of this one, the IR, we can see that we still have that media creation tool inside of that. So the same way we can execute it from here as well. So we can type in the same way, start process media creation tool 1809.exe. Since we're in this directory already, I can just hit enter and we're going to get that pop up again, and it's installing. So I went ahead and canceled it. This is where you're getting all these errors. Now, we can, the same way, we can start our script by typing in, let's see here, start dash process, and then we're simply going to navigate to the network location. Let's see here. And then it's going to be CobbleMan 1 folder name repo1, and then we're going to do a /, and then we're going to type in media creation tool 1809.exe. Then we're going to hit enter, and now we have that pop up again. And again, if you want to make this silent, you're going to have to create your own MSI package or something like that and basically design it so it is silent, so meaning that nothing happens that you see visually, it just kind of installs it. So that's how you would do it. That's how you would start to create your script for a remote location using PowerShell. Now, you can also use a package manager to download different applications or access different applications and execute them like so, but you would have to have some kind of a package manager that would allow you to do so. So let's look at a repository that's online available right now that you can kind of look at as an example of that. So there's one that was set up for testing by Microsoft, which we will navigate here in a moment. Let me just do a quick clear here so that we don't have any confusion here. And in order to find these packages, we can type in find dash package, and then we need to specify a provider, which that means is, dash provider. This is basically indicates that we're going to now type in the provider name. In our case, the provider or our server name, if you will, is Chocolati. I think that's how it's pronounced. So we're going to hit enter here and see what happens. So here's just the run of all the things that are available as in packages on this repository or server, if you will. So how do we get any of these packages downloaded to our computer? We just kind of have to know which one we want, but we can also kind of, if we specifically want to look for some specific, let's say, I don't know, let's say Notepad. So we can stop it from kind of going through all the things and see if there's anything available for Notepad. Because you can see there are so many different things here, and if there's something specific that you're looking for, you're gonna have to kind of remember that or specifically search for. So let's stop this process here, and I'm gonna leave it up just for the sake of reference. I'm going to open up a new PowerShell, and we're going to access the same repository, but I'm going to tell it to look for a specific name, and in our case we're going to use an example of namepad. So we're going to type in again find dash package, and then we're going to type in provider, and then server chocolatey, and I'm going to specify a command which is name, that tells it, okay, I want you to look for this specifically, or anything, or any derivative of that, or anything like that. I'm going to type in notepad, and I'm going to use asterisk. So I'm going to type in, and everything that's that has a notepad, there's inside of this repository, it's going to show up as so. So now we can see all the things that are available as a package inside of this repository. So yes, we can now download these packages, and we can use them in our package manager to push this type of different software. So what can we do with this point? Well, we can install one of these packages. So let's go ahead and pick our random one. Let's pick this one, Notepad++. We're going to do Control-C on this so we have it saved. And then again, we're going to use some commands. And this case, instead of typing in find package, we're going to type in install package. Install package. We're going to type in provider once more, and then we're going to type in chocolatey, and then we're going to specify name, and then we're going to say Notepad++. So let's see what happens when we execute that. And now it's asking us whether we trust this source, which is for the right reasons. If you're going to look at this repository, make sure that you feel comfortable with installing this on your computer. And here it asks you, are you sure you want to install software from Chocolatey? And I can say yes, yes to all, no, or no to all, suspend, or if you're unsure, you can type in help. So in my case, I'm just going to type in Y for yes, and I'm going to hit enter. And now it's installing this package. So let's see what happened. Did this actually install it? This is actually what happened. When we did that, it actually just downloaded that repository into our folder that is created on the root of C, and it's going to be in our libraries. And here is our Chocolatey. Well, there's a correct section. There it is. Notepad++ is what we just got here. And there are a couple of different packages here that are installed. This one actually came with the installer, so that's cool. Now we can actually execute this installer if we really wanted to. And all right, I found that some of these packages are not incomplete that I've downloaded. For example, Visual Studio here, this one doesn't seem to have the actual executable in there. But this one actually installed. What is this one? This is part of the same one. Okay, well, we can execute this now, and all we got to do is just copy this path here, and then we can type in again start process, and then we can specify that, and then we need to get the name of that installation. Let's do the x64, the 64-bit version of that. And I'm going to paste that in there, and I'm going to hit enter, and here it is. Now let's see if it works silently. It errored out because I clicked no, as you saw. I'm going to use the S switch. Let's see if this, nope. So yeah, it has to be an MSI package for it to install silently, and this one is just a simple executable. Anyways, guys, I hope you find this kind of interesting, because it really is. You can we can set up scripts that will allow you to install remote software packages into multiple computers, this and that. There are many ways of going about this. Is kind of just an introduction to PowerShell, and there are many different tools that you can look at, and not only can you install, you can also uninstall. And again, there are different ways of doing this. You can use the invoke command, or you can just use install package command, you can use the start process command, many different ways. And this is the great thing about PowerShell. You can customize this to your needs or to your business needs of just the way it feels the best for your type of business that you'll work at. And in today's video, I want to talk about file association. This is good to know for everybody, for everyday users like me and you, but also for people who do tech support. A lot of times you'll come across an application that requires specific software to run, but sometimes, and for some weird reason, it doesn't work because it doesn't know which application to use. This is usually, or this is typical with apps or applets that need to have a base software to run underneath, so that way it can do its thing. And that good example of that is Java applications or applets or even Java plugins. So of course we know what the basic file association is. If we look at this video file, we can see that it opens up using a Windows player. So if we right click it and go to properties, we can see that it opens with movies and TV, which is part of Windows, so it's a Windows video player. But if you want to open this .mp4 file with something else, we can simply do this. Click change and, for example, select the VLC media player. Click OK, select it, and now it's using Windows media player. So that's a quick file association. And you know, this is pretty easy. Anybody can do this, and it's really quick and really simple. But sometimes in tech support, in a business environment, this breaks. Even if you have the correct software installed, sometimes it may not run properly. So let me show you an example that I've kind of recreated to show you what happens. So here is a website. This is a NASA website. They have a bunch of Java applets, or simple Java applets that you can run. And if we click save, it's going to download it to our folder. So if we click open folder, we can now see that this extension that is JNLP, there's nothing associated with it. If I double click on it, it's just not going to know what to do because it doesn't even have Java installed on this computer. However, sometimes even if you do have Java installed on your computer, this file association will break. In our case, there is no Java installed on this computer. Yeah, new web browsers like, for example, Chrome here, and probably Edge as well. And I'm assuming, I'm not 100% sure on IE, but Chrome I know uses Java plugins to run. So it wouldn't even need that. I went ahead and downloaded Java, so we're going to install Java here, and you can see that the file association will change immediately, but I will show you nonetheless on how to do it manually and properly in case this breaks and it becomes just a white sheet of paper as it is right now. So simple way to resolve this is to make sure you have Java installed. So we're going to install Java, and I'm just going to click OK, and it's just going to install it real quick for you, and then this is going to change hopefully into the correct Java file association. It should, when it's done, it should know that it's downloading or that it's installing. It should know that Java is installed. This is typically what happens whenever you install a program. It runs the file association at the end. It changes these settings right away, and it should work. But again, sometimes it breaks, and then you have to do it manually, and there is a different way of going about it instead of a quick way. So, all right, let's see what happens. I'm going to click close, and we can see that nothing happened. So let me go ahead and refresh this to see. Nothing happened. So if I double click it, it actually knows, but it didn't tell us that. So what it does now, it's actually downloading this, it downloaded that little applet from the NASA website, and this is exactly what happens whenever you need that file association. Otherwise, you'll never get to this point where it's going to run that applet. So now, if we click run, it's going to start our little application. Can't find the name of Intel ICD Open. Okay, so it's not working for me because it doesn't have the OpenGL driver. Anyways, so here's what happens. It actually started using OpenGL on Java without OpenGL, and it's working, so that's good. Now we have this little globe and now we have file association that is working. So let's go ahead and close this real quick and go through Windows and tell it what it needs to use in order to run properly. So the way we're going to do this is going to right click on this little Windows icon. We're going to select apps and features up here, and then we're going to select default apps here, very important, and then we're going to scroll down and we're going to select where it says choose default apps by file type. So this may take a little bit to pull up because it's literally pulling up all the file types in the entire system. So what you're going to see here in a moment here is bunch of, on the left hand side, dot extensions. So it's going to, for example, have all of these .3GP and everything else. So what we're looking for is an extension that is called, let's see here, .jnlp. I wanted to make sure you guys see that. So it's .jnlp. You can also see it right here. It says JNLP. So we're going to look for that. We're going to scroll down. JNLP. All right, JNLP, where is it? Where is it? There it is. So it already knows to use Java Web Launcher. So to show you where that is actually, in case it's not detected, Java Web Launcher. It's also known as Java Web Start. So if we go in root of C and then we look for program files x86, Java, JRE, and then bin, and then we're going to look for Java Web Start, which should be Java WS. I probably passed it. Java WS, Java WS. Java CPL, that's the Java control panel, which we will pull up as well because I wanted to show you the, there it is, Java WS, because I wanted to show you the actual applet that downloaded to your computer. So Java WS, and that's the extension that it needs. So in this case, let's see here, file association for that is correct. So it's Java Web Launcher, which is also known as Java Web Start here. You see it says Web Start Launcher. That's the same thing. So since we are here, I'm going to open up a Java control panel, which by the way is also the same thing as if you were to go to control panel of the Windows. So if we just type in control panel and open it up, and where is it? Java, there it is. Java 32-bit is the same thing as Java control panel, which is Java CPL. So here we are, and in this here, I'm going to show you what exactly downloaded to the Java applet. And this is always going to be on the first tab. You don't have to go anywhere else, but you do have to click here where it says temporary internet files, click view. And we can see now that it downloaded that Java applet right here, which is Whirlwind KML, and it's by NASA. And you can see that it type is application. So you will see this a lot when you do web support. And again, if you're having issues with this, you can literally just delete it right here, just be clicking the X, and we're going to reinitiate it again, because this applet, all it does here, it just calls for downloading off that from NASA website. See, it downloaded it again. And it's giving me the stupid error again, but that's not related to that. It's still going to run. Anyways, exit. Come on. Anyways, here it is working again. And that's how you do file association in tech support and just on your computer if that's what you're into. Let's see, while I'm here in Java, I want to show you a couple other things to kind of look out for. One of the other typical things is security. Some websites will never get to that point where you get that applet to come up. So if you were to go to here and download it and this and that, you may never come up to that point if you remember seeing that security pop-up, or are you sure you want to run this type of thing. That sometimes you have to add that website as a trusted website in an exception list. And this is located in security. And this is typically done for web start applications. You can see here, web start applications. And if I click here, edit list, I can literally add the name of that website in there. And after that, it should start working. All right, let me just go to this website here real quick. And then we can copy this here. cup, copy, and there we're going to put it in here. And now the security prompts, if any, will not pop up, and it will allow Java to run automatically. Now let's double check again here, and this is another troubleshooting thing. Let's see where it's downloading from when I run this again. See, it's downloading actually from https://whirlwind.ca. So that's another way to troubleshoot this. So we can go in here and type in https whirlwind.ca. I think that's what it was, whirlwind CA. So if you're having trouble running these type of applets, whirlwind.org.nasa.gov. Okay, so I was wrong. It's the same thing. whirlwind.org.nasa.gov. Okay, so yeah, because sometimes it does, the applet itself may actually look for a different location to download the application itself locally, which I have shown you that in Java control panel, and that was here under view temporary internet files. All right, guys, I hope you find this useful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. Please leave a like. I really appreciate that. It really helps the channel move forward. It helps get more views, to be honest. And I really appreciate you guys watching and your support. I'm utterly grateful. So thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.